Oh, wait, there it is. Okay, I think it is. I think it's got it. I think it's got it. Okay, so like, why can you hear me? Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. Okay, now it's got it. Now it's got it. But watch. Okay. And then I do that. Okay, well, okay, so now it works. I don't know. Do I know why? No. But does it work now? Sure. So that's okay. That's how we're gonna do it. That's oh my gosh. Let's do a little announcement. Let's do a little announcement. Bum, 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 bum. How's your week, by the way? While we get set up and rolling, how are we all doing? How are we all doing? Dun, dun, dun. Dream class is live. Burr, burr, burr. Now it's good. So today, now that we're getting things set up and ready, today is all about talking about the differences, and I thought we'd talk about this, talking about the differences between a few different types of things that people often get confused. Hypnosis, uh, meditation, grounding, and mindfulness. Like what are the differences here? And I guess grounding is kind of in a category of its own. Like it's a little bit different, but people still ask kind of what it is and how it's different than hypnosis and hypnotherapy. So that was kind of the topic that we were going to cover today. Sort of what's the difference between all of those and how are they different and how do they help with certain things? What are they uniquely equipped for? Hey, what's up, Stephanie? And what's up, Marissa? How's it going? How's it going? We're talking about, I guess I wish there was a way. Wish there was a way to kind of like pin the topic in the chat, but we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Let me put it here in the Discord. What are the differences between hypnotherapy, mindfulness, meditation? And I think in that conversation we'll have a little bit of a conversation about the different types of hypnotherapy, right? And so let's start. Let's start with what are the differences between the three, because a lot of people get kind of confused about what they are, of course. So the way I like to say it is let's start with meditation. Meditation is eliminating distractions and focusing on one thing. So you look at like Tibetan monks or Buddhist tradition, right? Those who are really big into meditation, yoga, right? The yogis. Meditation is all about focusing on one thing, and traditionally that was Om. They say Om, and you focus on that the out breath, and that's the thing that you're focusing on. Now the reason that you do that, and it's very very helpful psychologically, by focusing on one thing and eliminating all these other distractions, it really helps to quiet down the mind, center the mind, and really kind of bring everything to a single point. So that's what meditation is. Now, you don't have to meditate just on Om, right? You can meditate on anything. And this is where the practice of affirmations will really come in, right? So you get into a meditative state, you close your eyes, you sit on the ground, you eliminate those distractions, and you focus on like, I am enough, right? Some kind of affirmation that may be really appropriate to you in that moment. And so you sit down, you think about, I am enough, and you focus on those words. And that's very helpful for eliminating some of that. Well, I guess in yoga or the Buddhist tradition, they call it the monkey brain, right? And I actually really kind of love that. When they're talking about the monkey brain, they're talking about, for us as hypnotherapists, they're talking about the unconscious part of the brain. It's always processing. That's what's crazy about the unconscious, right? Is it's always thinking about stuff. It's always working on things. So tell me in the chat as we kind of go through here. Has anyone ever been connected to or ever really enjoyed meditation? Do you have any experiences about that? Well, that's a great question, Friedman. Actually, if you want to join the Discord and post that over in the DreamShare section, that would be great. Love to answer it there. But right now, we're talking about hypnotherapy, mindfulness, and some of those questions that have been very pressing from the followers over on YouTube and Discord and all those places. So, but meditation, is anyone kind of familiar or experienced with meditation? I'm not a big meditative person myself. For me, a lot of what was experienced. Oh, okay, yeah. So tell me about meditation a little bit. Post your experiences in the chat. For me, meditation can very much be similar to like a prayer, right? What did you find that meditation was really helpful for? What were you trying to get out of it, and how were you trying to use that personally in your life to kind of work on some things? When I took anxiety and stress relief class, we did group meditation. It was very calming. We did Qigong. Oh yeah, Qigong. I'm familiar with that. It's hard to do alone. I try meditation, but I squirrel, I lose my focus. Yeah, that's what they call, right, the monkey brain or the squirrel brain, whatever it is. That's your unconscious. And so it's very easy to be distracted. Now, some people find meditation more difficult or easier than others. And I don't think that meditation is necessarily helpful for everybody, right? Or every situation. It has its unique use cases. Again, meditation being focusing on one thing. I'm going to meditate. And I think a great way to understand it that most people kind of connect with is like prayer. Prayer is a type of meditation. I'm focusing on this connection or this topic with God, right? So I'm going to sit here, I'm going to close my eyes, I'm going to pray, I'm going to eliminate those distractions and focus on that. Now, this is very helpful for those who have the monkey brain, right? Or who have the squirrel brain, like you're talking about, Ashley. You know, if your brain's all over the place, it's a great practice to learn how to focus in your thoughts, eliminate all these other things. Because in meditation, you don't want to criticize yourself for getting distracted. You just want to notice, oh, I got distracted. I'm going to bring myself back. And it's like a gentle and kind practice with yourself of learning how to focus your thoughts in on one thing. Friedman says, I can never focus on anything, and I tried imagining every breath was making a bigger and bigger fire. Yeah, great. And you breathe it out to manifest onto the world. I started and opened my eyes and realized a lot of time went by, and I didn't even notice. That is a very great explanation of what can be experienced in meditation. I love guided meditation, really helps with my anxiety. Yes, and so this is where meditation can be very, very helpful, like with anxiety or with those who have a lot of chatter in their brain, overthinking, really, really busy in their mind. You know, they can't get their racing thoughts to stop. By practicing meditation, you're growing that muscle inside of yourself of, I'm going to focus on this one thing. I'm going to learn how to control my thoughts a little bit better. Now, here's kind of the downside of meditation. I know you are always working when I'm online and doing live. That's okay. That's okay. You can watch this one. It'll be recorded. Guided meditation is great for those of us that have squirrel brains. Absolutely. Here's kind of the downside, though. And it's a small downside, but it's worth mentioning. Meditation is not very good for those who struggle to really feel their feelings, right? If you're the kind of person who struggles to really connect with your feelings and struggles to really honor and experience what's going on inside of you, meditation may not be very helpful because, again, meditation is, I'm not going to focus on that feeling. I'm not going to focus on that squirrel brain or that monkey brain over here. I'm going to bring it back to this one thing. And I think we see this quite a bit in the religious kind of context, right? This is where, you know, people will be like, oh, I hear that you're anxious, just go pray. And so there's kind of a problem there. Maybe you're anxious because there's something that you need to be doing, focusing on, or attending to, right? Some problem in your life that you need to be addressing. For example, if you're anxious because your toxic boyfriend is, you know, too much and causing you to feel unsafe and not honoring your boundaries, meditating by praying or by focusing on one thing of, I will be calm today, I will be calm today, is actually worsening that problem. Tell me in the chat if this is kind of making sense to you, or tell me a time where you've tried to meditate, pray, focus on one thing, and it actually ends up making the problem worse, right? If you've got a story, I would love to hear it. I would love to read it and comment. But this is where, it can kind of have what we call an adverse reaction. An adverse reaction is when you prescribe some kind of tool to a person, to a client, or to a person who needs help, but that tool that you try and give them actually ends up making the problem worse. For example, right? If you're tired or struggling to concentrate, caffeine can really help. But if you give caffeine to a person who is anxious, it can have an adverse reaction of, now I was anxious and now I'm even more anxious because that caffeine really sped me up. Rachel says, this is so very true. You have to be able to deal with the emotion, not try to meditate it away. 100%. And so the big sort of caveat with meditation is really great if you're trying to learn to develop control of your thoughts and to develop some brain muscle power of concentration. So those who have ADHD, struggling to concentrate in school, struggling to focus, and maybe struggling with procrastination, or struggling with motivation and getting things done, meditation would be a great tool for you. Or for those who are anxious, but they've already addressed the anxiety, right? So let's say that you already, got rid of your toxic boyfriend, or you already quit your toxic job and you're in a better job, but your mind still races all the time. Those are almost like leftovers. Those are like little remnants, sort of left inside of your mind after you've already addressed the problem. Meditation can help you refocus your thoughts and get back on track with those type of things. Again, not helpful if there are some things that your mind is trying to say, hey, pay attention to this, and you're not paying attention to it. Saying, hey, there's a problem here, but you're not really fixing that problem. So this is where it can be difficult. Now, I think another great one is depression. Meditation can be great for depression in the right circumstances. Let's say that, you're doing the right things, you're working on yourself, you're caring for your relationships, you've got your job, you're trying to improve yourself, but your mind keeps focusing on everything's pointless. My contribution is meaningless. I'm worthless. Life is going nowhere. Everything is sad and terrible. Which I'm not going to argue that you're totally wrong, but it's only part of the story. You can build a good future. You can have positive relationships. And so because that neural pathway of negative, negative, negative is so ingrained inside of your mind, it takes practice to build those positive associations inside of your mind. That's where meditation can be really, really helpful, right? Now, meditation is very similar to the beginning stages of hypnosis and hypnotherapy. Remember our previous class, we talked about how there's several stages of hypnosis, and the very first one is to gain someone's focus and attention. Meditation is all about focus and attention. So if you've got any questions about meditation, let me know. Put it in the chat and I'll answer it. But we're going to move on from meditation to mindfulness. They're very similar, but they're very different. Mindfulness is all about bringing your awareness to the here and now. So meditation can be about like manifesting, right? I'm going to meditate on what it's going to be like to be a millionaire, because one day I'm going to be a millionaire, so I'm going to manifest it. Meditate, meditate, meditate. Be a millionaire, be a millionaire. Think in abundance, right? Things like that. But that's the future, right? Or meditate on like the past, right? I am not my traumas. I am not my traumas, or whatever it is, right? That's meditation. Mindfulness is right here, right now. Meditation and manifesting can go hand in hand. Yeah, exactly, Kevin. 100%, 100%. You get it. You get it. Now, mindfulness is here and now. I've said that 5 times, so let me get back on track. Mindfulness is paying attention to your body, typically, right? Now, it could be something else, I suppose, right? So, like, let's say that you're sitting on the beach and you're practicing in mindfulness about the waves. So you sit and you close your eyes and you listen very intensely to the waves coming in, crashing, going out. You're being mindful and you're letting your mind pay attention to what is happening right now, the waves on the beach or the birds in the air, right? Or you go on a nice walk. Mindfulness, you don't have to be, sitting in one spot. And meditation, you don't have to either. Mindfulness, you can be going on a walk and you pay attention to every tree that you pass by. You are mindful of the tree, like our parents used to say, mind your manners, right? Pay attention to what's going on right now, and let your mind focus on it. Now, a great way to do this is focusing on your breath. Be mindful of your breath. And someone in the chat, I forget who it was earlier, said, okay, imagine every breath was making a bigger and bigger fire, right? And do you breathe it out and manifest onto the world? I started and opened my eyes and realized a lot of time had gone by. So actually that part where you're focusing on your breath and you're imagining a fire getting bigger and bigger, that would be mindfulness. You're focusing on what's going on. So now there's a lot of like
There we go. Oh, that probably sounds a lot better too. Psych! You thought your AirPods died. Thank you, chat. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. There's a little thing, but it's over in the corner that tells me if my volume's there. Okay, so what I was saying is there was somebody earlier in the chat who said they were focusing. Yeah, I was coming through the wrong channel and I realized why now. So I got it. I got it figured out. Gotta stay. I'm a little bit late to the April 1st prank, but I get it in there anyway. Someone earlier in the chat said they did a meditation exercise where they focused on their breath and they imagined that it was a fire growing bigger and bigger. I would actually call that mindfulness because you're paying attention to, you're being mindful of the experience in your body right now. So mindfulness is very, very helpful for those who have anxiety, right? For those who are struggling with racing thoughts, or especially like OCD, right? Things like that. Things where, there's a lot of jumping off into the future or jumping off into the past. So mindfulness is great for trauma as well. If your mind keeps running away into thinking about the past or thinking about something that happened or thinking about a trauma or jumping into the future, what were to happen? What if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? I'm going to calm down. I'm going to bring it back to the moment, and I'm going to focus on my breath. I'm going to focus on the sound that's happening around me. I'm going to focus on the waves on the shore. I'm going to focus on, well, whatever it is. It could be anything, and this is great. I mean, I think a lot of times music can be a really great practice of mindfulness. I'm bringing my attention to the music, the sound of the song. And this is where, I think music helps a lot of people too. Mindfulness helps you focus on the here and now. It's an amazing thing. Yeah, it 100% is. 100% is. Now, mindfulness may not be a great tool if you need to work on past or future things, right? So this is where, I don't know, for me, you can see people who seem a little bit silly that are maybe, you might call them hippy dippy, right? These are the flower child, the love guru type of person. They're very mindful. They're very in touch with their feelings and their emotions in the here and now. They've got all of their senses inside of their body, but they're kind of not preparing for the future. Right, this is one of the great criticisms of like the hippie or the free love flower child community, right? I think the modern version of this now is the EDM community, who are always going to festivals and enjoying music. They're very mindful of their experience here and now with the music or whatever, but they're not planning for the future. And so there is too much mindfulness where you're focusing so much on the here and now that you're not taking steps to prepare and keep yourself safe for the future. Now, you could imagine like this could be difficult if you're a parent. This could be difficult if you're a partner in a relationship, because you do have to you got to go work your job. If you're too mindful, you could be like, I'm feeling myself and my emotions in my body today, and my body says I don't want to go to work, so I'm going to take a break and not go to work. That may be great if you're overworking, but it may not be great if you're the type of person who needs to go to work and you haven't attended to your responsibilities. So there can be kind of this negative part to it if you're not paying attention to your responsibilities and taking care of the past or planning for the future. There is definitely such a thing as being too much in the moment. Does that kind of make sense? Have you ever met someone? Maybe tell me a story, maybe tell me about a past relationship in the chat if you'd like to share about someone who is maybe just a little bit too mindful. I seem to run into these. Hey, Stephanie, I'm not trying to attack nobody, but it can be a problem. Now, maybe this is a separate conversation. We'll have a separate dream class on this, but there's definitely some personality types that are much more in touch with their feelings in the moment, and that's very easy for them to do, right? It's very easy for them to feel their feelings and be in the present. But there is something as doing that too much. And like I said, I see this a lot in like the EDM community where, these people are going to festival and concert after concert, right? And it's like, yeah, but what are you doing with your life? Like, are you really planning for the future? And so there's nothing wrong with going to festivals and enjoying your life. But if you're not taking care of yourself and planning, it can be a little bit too much. That was me today. Took the day off because I've been super anxious lately. See, and that may be exactly what your body and mind needed today. So there's nothing wrong with that, Rena, right? But think about like a teenager, right? Stereotypical teenager, not all teenagers, but think about a teenager, right? They don't want to do their homework. They don't want to go to work. They don't want to get up and make their bed, which I get. They're very in touch with their emotions in the moment. But you have to learn some self-discipline. So to me, meditation is all about that self-discipline. It's very disciplined. Mindfulness is all about feeling in the moment. So you can kind of see they come from very different places. And even though they're kind of similar, they have some very different applications. And I think it's important for us to understand what the benefits and downsides are, as well as for a therapist to understand what the benefits and downsides are, right? People need to comment on every single thing on TikTok. Oh, gosh, yes. No joke. I find it a lot on TikTok. All right, so the last one, right? Hypnotherapy. So what is hypnotherapy? Because we are kind of focusing in hypnotherapy, right? And we are kind of being mindful of the here and now in hypnotherapy, right? So how do we describe hypnotherapy? But question, does mindfulness help with doubt? Ooh, I think it depends, right? It depends on where the doubt is coming from. Like if the doubt is about like the future, right? It might be helpful to have some mindfulness and to bring it to the here and now. It's like, okay, well, I'm about to go give this presentation, right? And I am just racing in my thoughts. So bringing myself back to, I can feel my breath in my lungs. I can hear the things going on around me. I can experience, the feeling of my shirt in my hands. That's mindfulness. And it's really great at like panic attacks, right? Now, if that doubt is because you constantly don't feel worthy and accepted or confident enough as a person, mindfulness may actually just get you to focus on how you don't feel good enough in the moment here and now. So in that situation, meditation might actually be more helpful. Be like, I'm going to give a great presentation. You're strong, you're confident, you're powerful. And you kind of repeat this to yourself over and over again. I'm not going to focus on my rapid breathing, my upset stomach, my irritable bowels because I'm anxious right now about to give this presentation. I'm going to be meditative and focus on the positive outcome I want. So you can kind of see, depending on where it comes, I would use a different tool. You have to really be specific about diagnosing. Maybe that's a little bit too clinical, right? But you have to be specific about diagnosing what is causing that doubt. Why is your stream going, then stopping, going, then stopping? I don't know. Is that everybody else's experience? It seems to be going pretty smooth for me. What is the discussion tonight? Hypnotherapy versus yes. So the big three: hypnotherapy, mindfulness, meditation. What are the differences? What are their uses? What are their downsides? So like using affirmations for mindfulness. So I would think affirmations are more meditation, not mindfulness, because affirmations are focusing on something other than the present right now, right? Affirmations are, I'm focusing on what I want to happen, right? You are smart. You are confident. You are smart. You are confident. That's meditative. You get what I'm saying? It's been fine on my end other than when you muted yourself. Yes. We figured out what that was. So does that make sense, Kevin? Or maybe give me, Kevin, if you've got like a specific sort of question, like a specific scenario in your mind, would love to kind of dissect that with you a little bit. but it's hard to me. I find myself doubting some things, but it's hard to be mindful. Yeah. So like if that doubt is coming from that space, it could be, God, it could be really actually probably not helpful to be mindful, because you'll end up focusing on your doubt that you feel here in the moment. You know, I do think it's great for panic attacks, again, because panic attacks are usually I'm panicking about something that I think is going to happen, right? My mind is off in the future having this panic attack. What if the plane crashes? What if the plane crashes? You know, I'm having a panic while I'm flying. Mindfulness is great. Let's bring it back to the here and now. Let me focus on my breath. Let me focus on what I can control. I'll feel better. Kevin says, well, I have this situation that I know is supposed to be working out relationally, but people are telling me things are getting better. That I know is supposed to be working out relationally. Yeah, so in that case, it could be helpful to be more meditative. You know, if things are going well and in the present it's great, you know, maybe it's helpful to think about the future and be like, I am capable of love. I am worthy of accepting love. Something like that. But the person I was friends with seems to be pushing me further and further away, and it's causing me to doubt about our friendship. Well, so in that situation, well, it could be the situation, and I don't know, you know, I'm just getting little bits of it here on the internet. But in that situation, your mind may be telling you, hey, I need to confront something. I need to say something to this friend, but I'm avoiding that right now. I don't like feel comfortable. I don't feel confident like talking about those things. So I'm kind of like pulling back when really my mind is saying, hey, you need to be engaging and have a conversation with this friend. No, I don't know if that's what you're talking about. I can't figure out what I need to work on to make things better between us. That sounds like a relationship thing, and that's a whole separate topic. Okay, so hypnotherapy, right? This is the last big point, and this is what everyone came here for. Hypnotherapy is different than those two. It's not about the future or the past per se, and it's not about getting in touch with the moment, but it incorporates both of those. Hypnotherapy, going back to our conversation about the monkey brain, hypnotherapy is listening on purpose to the monkey brain. So hypnotherapy is like, hey, everything that comes up, everything that comes out of your mind, no matter how silly or stupid it is, let's listen to it. Let's focus on it. Right? Let's ask ourselves what this is telling us. So where mindfulness and meditation are very conscious heavy, right? I'm really concentrating my thoughts. I'm really using my executive functioning to funnel in either to the future with meditation or the present with mindfulness. Hypnotherapy is I'm going to turn off my thoughts. I'm going to close my eyes and allow whatever comes out. I'm going to listen to this story that my monkey brain is telling me, because in that story, I'm going to discover what I'm actually feeling and what the real solutions are. So Kevin, to answer your question, I don't think necessarily meditation or mindfulness are the right solution for you. I think hypnotherapy and even self-hypnosis may be the right tool to use in this situation, because you're not trying to tell yourself or manifest the positive outcome in the future. You're not really trying to focus on the present, because right now you're feeling anxious and having doubt. What you're trying to figure out is, where is this doubt coming from? Why am I having these doubts? What is this doubt reminding me of, right? Do people with childhood PTSD have hyper reactions to hypnotherapy, like trauma flashbacks? No, I wouldn't say that. In fact, they can have some hyper reactions to the other two that we're talking about. Especially, I would say mindfulness for someone with PTSD and who's been traumatized, getting someone back into the present and feeling their body, because their body was the source of where they experienced that trauma. Mindfulness can actually be not counterintuitive. What was the word I used? I'm having a brain fart. Contraindicated, or it may have an abreaction, because a lot of times, like, think about it. If my body was hurt or sexually abused and I start to bring my attention back to my body, like the book says, the body keeps the score. So bringing my attention back may actually be triggering. And so you would want to kind of like proceed into mindfulness with caution, right? Contraindicated. Yes. Thank you, Marissa. I appreciate you. I had a brain fart there. Hypnotherapy with a good hypnotherapist, of course. You know, a bad hypnotherapist is going to fuck it up all over the place, right? But with a good hypnotherapist executed well, no, hypnotherapy is not going to have a contraindication for trauma or childhood PTSD. That's why I actually use hypnotherapy for trauma. So again, let me just get a good foundation here. Hypnotherapy is I'm turning off my thoughts and allowing whatever comes out unconsciously to just be there. And this is where a lot of people really doubt themselves. And so again, kind of to go back to your point, Kevin, I really appreciate you sharing that story, because I think hypnotherapy is specifically very, very capable and adept at dealing with trauma and doubt, because it's exploring where that comes from, right? And it's listening to those unconscious emotions. Can you explain a bit more about how self-hypnosis works? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So one experience that I have when I'm doing hypnosis, and then we'll get to Marilyn. Is it Marilyn or Marlene? Can you tell me how to say your name right? I'm so sorry. I say Marlene all the time, but I'm realizing now, if I look at how your name is spelled, I don't think that's actually how I'm supposed to say your name. I apologize. So a lot of times what will happen is, in a hypnosis session, I'll have someone close their eyes and they'll be like, going through, they walk down the steps, they go through the forest, they look into a river or whatever, some kind of story that they're following along with. And what I'm doing with that story is their unconscious monkey brain is bringing all sorts of different like details and thoughts and metaphors into that scenario. Right? I didn't tell them what kind of tree. Was it a pine tree? Was it an oak tree? Was it a sycamore tree? I don't know, whatever it is. By leaving those details blank and allowing the monkey brain, the unconscious brain, to fill in those details, I'm getting the projections and I'm getting new insight and information from the unconscious into that scenario. Is YouTube a valid place to do self-hypnosis? Ooh, great question. Great question. Oh, I'm holding on to both of those because I want to answer those together. My name is Maralina, actually, and it's hard to say even in a country, people say it. In my country, people say it differently. Okay, well, maybe give me a phonetic spelling sometime. What I'll often do in hypnotherapy as well is I'll give a person the suggestion to see what their mind fills in. I'll say, you sit down in a room. You feel the chair, it's nice and underneath you. You can feel it supporting you. See, bringing in elements of mindfulness, right? And you, as you're sitting there, you see photos hanging on the wall, all sorts of pictures, just lining floor to ceiling the wall. And you notice each one of them holds a different memory. I didn't tell them what memory. I didn't tell them how big the photos were or how small the photos were. It could have been, they could imagine a photo that goes from floor to ceiling, or they could imagine 50 photos, little photos that go floor to ceiling. They could imagine a Polaroid pictures, right? And by being nondescript, but by giving them a place to project that unconscious imagery, I'm giving them the space for their unconscious mind to tell me secrets that they kind of push back against throughout their day-to-day life. You see what I'm saying? So that's really the beauty of hypnotherapy. It's getting at the unconscious content that usually our thoughts in our conscious mind gets in the way of. That's why it's very similar to dreaming. And that's why I specialize in dreams and hypnosis, because they really are almost the same thing. Hypnotherapy is we're dreaming on purpose. Dreams are what naturally happen while we sleep. So let's talk about self-hypnosis. What is self-hypnosis? Some people, I think, when they talk about self-hypnosis, there's a couple of things. When they talk about self-hypnosis online, some of these self-hypnosis YouTube videos are really, really great. And I recommend you looking them up. I don't think they do any harm. But what they're using the term self-hypnosis when really it's just guided meditation, right? I want you to focus on the story I'm telling you. I want you to meditate with me on this topic. And so it's really not self-hypnosis, it's just guided meditation. Now, there are some hypnosis tracks on YouTube or online. I plan on making a couple myself that actually are really great hypnosis, and they're giving you the space to create and to project the unconscious content. Now, at the end of the hypnosis and the hypnotherapy experience, you're going to give a suggestion, right? So it's like, okay, you see all these photos and images on the wall. Let's go back to our metaphor here. All these memories on the wall. And I want you to imagine you take all of them and you pull each one slowly out of the picture frame and you put it into a memory notebook. And when you're done seeing those, you close the book, you put it away on the shelf, and you feel calm and peace because you don't have to think about all those thoughts all at once. And you know that you can go back to those memories anytime you need to, but now's not the time. I'm giving that person the suggestion in that kind of hypnotic trance that you don't have to overthink. You don't have to think about your traumatic memories. You can visit them when you need to. They're safe, but we can move on with our life right now. That would be kind of the hypnotic suggestion there. And there's a lot of great, like I said, online recordings and YouTube videos that do a good job of doing that. But there's some that are just guided meditation, calling themselves hypnosis because they know they'll get more clicks on YouTube. You kind of see what I'm saying? Now, there is another form of self-hypnosis, right? Actually, two forms that I want to go over with you. They're very similar. They're not by any kind of online track, right? You're not going to listen to anything. You're just going to do it by yourself. And I do this from time to time. It was like that story I told in last time's dream class about how I hypnotized myself to not feel my pain, right? That wasn't mindfulness. That wasn't meditation. I was allowing my mind to spontaneously create a story that helped me cope with the pain that I was in at that moment. You know, that's what really self-hypnosis can be. Now, there's another type of self-hypnosis. That's the first time. I get myself in a moment and I allow myself, hypnotize myself to give my mind the space to bring forth whatever thoughts I'm ignoring and pressing down deep inside. Now, the other type of self-hypnosis is the one that a hypnotherapist will give you at the end of a hypnotherapy session. And it's very similar to meditation, but it's a little bit different. Let's say that I do a hypnosis session with you to help deal with a fear of flying, right? After you have that fear of flying, I may say, okay, throughout the week, I want you to do some self-hypnosis on imagining what a great plane flight would be like. Now, that isn't mindfulness and it isn't meditation. It's you allowing your unconscious mind to experience how a good plane flight might be. I'm not going to tell you exactly how it might be. I'm going to let your mind fill in the details, but it's almost like imagination, right? And children are great at self-hypnosis. You can see they're hypnotizing themselves all the time because it's just imagination. They're giving their minds the space to free think, to imagine, and to create beautiful fantasies that express their unique and genuine emotions, because children do not have a fully formed prefrontal cortex or conscious mind. So they're much more capable of being creative, imaginative, and doing self-hypnosis than adults are. That's why a lot of times they'll say, when you become an adult, you lose your imagination. Self-hypnosis is getting your imagination back and learning how to use your imagination to help deal with and process emotional difficulties. Okay, I think we laid a pretty good foundation for self-hypnosis and hypnosis in general. So let's get back to these questions, because I wanted to lay that foundation before we got into some of these questions, because I don't think they would have totally made sense. Can you explain a bit about self-hypnosis, how it works? Yes, got to that one. Is YouTube a valid place for self-hypnosis? Yes, but there are some other ways to do self-hypnosis that I think have some really great benefits, like we talked about. How can you do self-hypnosis? Well, it takes a little bit of training, but I would say not really. I think we just get out of practice with it as we become adults. But really, self-hypnosis is just kind of like active imagination. Actually, that's a great way to describe it. Active imagination and self-hypnosis, in my mind, are the same thing. Same thing. What cases would you say hypnotherapy is not recommended? So, hypnotherapy is really just a connection with the unconscious mind. I would say hypnotherapy is not helpful for those people who need to take, who just need to practice things and put things into steps. Like, hypnotherapy is not going to help you put in job applications and get employment. You need to go to Indeed and fill out some applications. Hypnotherapy is not going to help you get your homework done. You need to go study and read a book. Right? So anything that is very much consciously focused, right? Anything that you need to be paying conscious attention to, hypnotherapy is not going to help. Now, most things when it comes to emotions, because your emotions live in the unconscious mind, most things about emotions, hypnotherapy is a great tool for. And I use it all the time and in many different scenarios. But like, if you need to focus on your job, if you need to get an email written, if you need to get your homework done, if you need to fold your sheets and fold your laundry so you can, get that done for your house chores, hypnotherapy is not going to help. You need to have a plan. You need to create a schedule. You need to focus on it and get it done. So that would be really what I would not recommend hypnotherapy for. Ashley says, this conversation reminds me a lot of when my therapist tried EMDR therapy with me. I know you said there are some similarities between the two. Yeah, I think we'll talk about that too. If we have enough time today, we can go into that. I love that hypnotherapy is dreaming on purpose. It's a beautiful definition. Yeah, me too. That one really makes me happy, Julie. Marissa says, so is maladaptive daydreaming self-hypnosis? I know we kind of talked about this already. Sure. I think some people mean different things when they say maladaptive daydreaming, but yes, maladaptive daydreaming would be like hypnosis, like self-hypnosis without any control, right? At a certain point, you need to kick back in your thinking so you can get some stuff done. Let's say that every time I go to sit down to write an email, I start to daydream, right? Well, that's not very helpful. I need to focus. I need to concentrate on getting this email written. And so that would be maladaptive daydreaming. Now, sometimes due to trauma, that maladaptive daydreaming can end up like really, really negative. That would be kind of problematic too. And actually in that case, think about it. Mindfulness really gets you to focus on something. So kind of like the opposite, meditation gets you to focus on something. So really kind of the opposite of hypnotherapy would be meditation. So if you're struggling with maladaptive daydreaming, meditation may actually be a much more effective tool because it's getting you to focus in those out of bounds thoughts, like all those thoughts that are all over the place. Does that kind of make sense, Marissa? You see kind of the difference there? And then Kevin says, what do you think of the statement that imagination is the real world, not the 3D? I think there's two worlds, right? There's two worlds, and they're both very, very important. Okay, great. I'm glad, Marissa. It was a wonderful question. Please, if you got any more, put them in the chat. This is kind of the back and forth portion of Dream Class today. What do you think about the statement that the imagination is the real world, not the 3D? There's two worlds. And this is honestly the truth. There is the tangible world that we can touch, right? There is a physical reality. There's an existence here, because, and I know this because things that I don't want to happen. There must be a real, tangible, external reality, because if there wasn't, then I would be able to fly. I would be able to have a Ferrari sitting in my driveway when I do not. I have a Mazda. Nothing wrong with Mazda, right? But it's not a Ferrari. So there is a world with real limitations. I can't jump like Michael Jordan. I will never be able to jump like Michael Jordan. That's a limitation of the real world. Now, it is very important for me to also form an imaginative world inside of my head. Because by manipulating my imaginative world, I can come up with ideas that create changes in the external reality. That was deep. Did you catch it? I have to form a concept and an opinion of the external reality so I can start to manipulate it in my head and imagine how it could be different so I can make things happen that I want to be happen. For example, right? I wanted to become a counselor. I was not a counselor when I was in high school, but because I could make up an imaginary world inside of my head where I was a counselor and I could imagine and envision that, I was able to create a plan and make steps so I could one day be sitting in this chair as a fully licensed counselor. So there's the external reality, and then there's my internal reality. By using my internal reality to come up with ideas, I can create changes in my external reality. And that is the real beauty of hypnotherapy. If you are struggling with anxiety and you cannot come up with a reality and you can't imagine a world where you're not anxious or where you go on stage confident and present your ideas to the world, hypnotherapy will allow you to really cultivate your imagination and create this imaginative reality of being confident and sharing your ideas with the world. So that way you can start to take the steps and make those changes that bring that imaginative reality into the external reality. That's the beauty. Imagine I have a fear of flying. I've been afraid of flying, and this is not for me personally, but it's just a story. Imagine that I've been afraid of flying for all of my adult life. It's such a part of who I am. A fear of flying that I can't imagine a world in which I get on a plane and I'm excited and happy to go on vacation and fly to the Cayman Islands, right? By using hypnotherapy, it allows me to imagine a world where I'm able to get on a plane and fly with confidence. And by doing that and practicing that imaginary world in here, just the same way dreams do, I can start to create steps to make that imaginary world my real external world. And that's what it's all about. That's why children are so good with their imaginations, because by using their imaginations and by, working themselves through and by processing their feelings, sorry, I'm so passionate, I'm spitting, they're able to start to create changes in their external world. We pretend to be our parents' jobs before we actually get jobs ourselves. And that's so important for our emotional and personal development as children, because by playing pretend, firefighter, superhero, police officer, whatever you're going to play, we learn and start to create a reality of one day I will be an adult and have a job. And by going to school, doing my homework, by playing make-believe, I can start to take the steps to become a full adult and to have a job one day. That's the whole point of being a child. And going back to that childlike mind is the purpose and the goal of hypnotherapy. We're bringing someone back to that childhood state of really pure, innocent development so they can create and be the person and create the external world and reality that they would like to have, because they feel so trapped and stuck inside of the maladaptive, the broken, the problematic imaginary world they have here. And it becomes their living hell inside of their external reality. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that really tells the difference. Tell me in the chat if you're vibing with that, if you're connecting with that, because that's really how each of these kind of relate one to another. There was a question. Oh. EMDR. Let's just tag this on 5-10 minutes at the end. Yeah. I just want to say I love this. I'm so happy to be able to watch this live. Oh, thank you so much, Marlena. I appreciate it. I'm really glad. I hope it's helping your life. I hope it's helping you learn some things about yourself and appreciate yourself just that much more. That's the whole point here. Okay. So what is EMDR? EMDR is a subset of hypnotherapy. It is helping you imagine and disrupt and create a new world inside of your imagination. Now, my contention with EMDR is it's too direct. It's too literal. It's too much by the books and manual. It's like telling a child how to play pretend, which is what I don't like, right? Imagine if I wanted to play make-believe with my son, right? With my child. Imagine he's a little bit older than he is now. I want to play make-believe with my kid. But I tell them all the steps that they need to do along the way of make-believe. Well, first thing is you need to choose what kind of character you want to play. And then you need to choose the outfit that's appropriate for that character. And then we're going to have a 3-step scene in order to play make-believe together, right? Now, if I'm trying to teach that kid something, then that's fine. If I'm trying to teach that kid one specific thing, that would be great. I can make that very specific and manualized type of imaginative play. That would be EMDR. Hey, you had this traumatic experience over here in Afghanistan, right? So I want you to do these steps with me, right? We're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That way we go in, we disrupt that traumatic event for you, and we reimagine a different kind of reality that you can live in. I think it's so much more powerful and so much more helpful to the person to allow them to feel their own creativity and spark of genius in creating the reality they want to make and to make the changes they want to have themselves. If I do EMDR and I'm telling you exactly all the steps to do, one, it can be very triggering to those who have had their independence and autonomy violated. And this is why EMDR really struggles with complex trauma, because I'm almost like telling you how to do it. And for those who have been told and manipulated and, kind of forced into things as part of their trauma, EMDR can have some difficulties, because again, the therapist is telling you exactly what to do. hypnotherapy is so much more connective and emotional and really empathetic because I'm not going to tell you what pictures on the wall, what you see in the river, right? What reality you want to make. I'm just going to give you the suggestion and allow you to find the imaginative solutions that work for you because I trust your brain to fill in those details and I'm going to guide you along the way. That's the difference for me. And that's my big contention with EMDR. If you want to go in, have your 6 sessions, bing, bang, boom. I dealt with my traumatic car accident or that time in Afghanistan where I got shot at. Great. It's perfect for that because we're going to go in, we're going to do this, we're going to work this way, and then we're going to be done. But I think there are so many much more complex stories and much more complex traumatic experiences that I think need to have the nuance and the flexibility of hypnotherapy. And that's really where hypnotherapy shines. And that's really where hypnotherapy has such an amazing outcome, potential, possibility, and effect on the clients that I work with. Okay. Let's get back to the questions. I think I gave a good sort of description of my contention with EMDR, really where it benefits well and really where some of the downfalls of EMDR are. So if EMDR doesn't work, would hypnotherapy be a better option? Yes, I think so. And I've had many people who have come to me, Rena, after using EMDR and they didn't like the way EMDR made them feel, or they had an abreaction to EMDR. I get that quite a bit. People saying they have an abreaction to EMDR. So yes, for those that EMDR doesn't work, they often come and book an appointment with me for hypnotherapy because it's a much more creative tool. Can hypnotherapy help remember repressed memories and trauma? Yeah. So Friedman, I'm saying Friedman because I don't totally know how to say your first name. So I thank you for being understanding. So we don't use hypnotherapy to specifically retrieve lost memories because they did a lot of that in the 60s. And what happened is if you use hypnotherapy and you go in to try and retrieve a memory that you think is there, you're kind of going in with a false assumption. You're like, well, I think something traumatic happened to me between the ages of 8 and 12. So we're going to go in and search for what's there. By doing that, you already are suggesting to yourself that something terrible happened between 8 and 12. So what happens is you end up with false memories. Now, during the process of hypnotherapy, remember, we're clearing out that conscious repression. We're getting rid of those critical thoughts that keep our emotions pent up inside of us. So we don't go searching for memories specifically, but through the process of projection and hypnosis, memories oftentimes come to the surface. I would say almost every time I use hypnosis and hypnotherapy, some kind of memory is coming back that was previously lost. So we don't go in looking for it on purpose, but by clearing our expectations and clearing our conscious repression out of the way, those things that need to come to the surface by themselves. And so many of my clients do remember things and realize things about their past and their memories that they didn't even know were there. So yes, but you have to be specific about the way you go about it, if that makes sense, Friedman. Kevin says, imagine if I wanted to make believe. Haha, make believe I wanted to make believe. That's funny. Make believe I wanted to make believe. Ashley says, yes, that's how I felt. It felt so forced. And that's my contention with it. EMDR feels forced. So honestly, it was very hard for me to do. Yeah. Especially Ashley, like you said, you have the squirrel brain that jumps around. Your mind is so creative, Ashley, and it's looking for an avenue to just unleash that creativity. And so EMDR probably wasn't a great fit for you because it was too specific. Your mind wants to find the solutions and it's bouncing around to bing, 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 all these solutions. So hypnotherapy allows it the space to do that. EMDR is much too closed. Rena says, it felt very awkward when I did it and couldn't fully focus on it. Yeah, hypnotherapy feels awkward, but it feels awkward because playing make-believe feels awkward and being imaginative feels awkward. That's why being a child is awkward. So yeah, it's this weird kind of tension between like, I'm going to be like open, creative, and spontaneous, but I'm going to do it in a predictable way. EMDR is funny like that. Yeah. Oh, it was EMDR. Okay, I got you. That's what you're saying, right, Rena? Ashley says, she forced me to work through childhood trauma that had nothing to do with why I was in there to start with. Gosh. That's my huge contention. Gosh, if I could just take that and just plaster that as like the tagline. Ashley, Julie says, Ashley, same. I had one session of EMDR and it was awful. It's just much too forced. It's much too rushed. It's not allowing the mind to heal itself on its own. It's trying to kind of push it through. And again, EMDR is hypnotherapy. It uses all of the hypnotherapy principles. I can show you line by line, point by point, what each of them are. And I've done that in the hypnotherapy class that I teach, the 50-hour long one that I teach for students. That's what it is. EMDR is hypnotherapy, but it's hypnotherapy in kind of a very specific and rigid way, which is my greatest contention with it. So again, EMDR is great when it works well, right? There's those specific cases where EMDR just knocks it out of the park. It crushes it. And I love that. But there's so many other situations and abreactions that happen with EMDR that I really hope the message of hypnotherapy gets out there and teaches people that there is another tool, a much bigger tool that can be very helpful. So again, just to kind of wrap up, if you got any questions, any like final questions, put them in the chat because we're gonna finish up here, and I'm gonna go help deal with a little Ollie bear because he's been a terror lately. He's growing, man, and so he's just fussy all the time. Here are the different things. Meditation is great for projecting the future that you want, focusing on your desired goals, and manifesting your future. Meditation, right? Focus. Eliminate your distracted thoughts. Practice concentration. That's meditation. Mindfulness. Get in touch with the here and now. Focus on your breathing. Focus on the waves that are crashing on the beach in front of you at that moment. It's helpful for panic attacks. It really gets you back in the moment and stops your mind from rushing off into the future or obsessing about the past. Hypnotherapy. Create a new reality so you can take the steps to achieve your goals. That's hypnotherapy. EMDR is a subset of hypnotherapy that says, hey, I'm going to teach you how to do it in this exact way. But it can have some abreactions because it's so specific. So those are the 4 things we covered today: meditation, mindfulness, hypnotherapy, EMDR. And I hope that this was a great video, honestly. I'm really excited to put this one up on the main page and make this into a whole thing because I think we talked about some things that I get asked a bunch, and I think we covered them really, really well. Thank you all for joining me for this lecture, for today's questions, some wonderful participation in the chat. Thank you so much. I enjoyed spending my Wednesday with you. If you got any follow-up questions, there's links that I'm going to put in this live class to the Discord where we can talk more about it and you can ask your questions there, post more dream content, and we'll be back next week on Wednesday for another dream class. Thanks so much for joining. My name is Jesse Lyon. Your mind's not against you. It's just misunderstood. I'm here to clear it up. I'll see you next time, all right? Bye.